When we say democracy, we usually mean liberal democracy. But what if this is only one historical variant and not the only possible form? What if democratic decision-making existed long before official constitutions and parliaments? Is democracy necessarily tied to cities, literacy, and institutions? Or can it emerge even in nomadic societies with no stable bureaucracy or written law? In this video, we will talk about forgotten forms of democracy, including military and elective traditions among Mongols and Central Asian nomads. But more importantly, we will ask what democracy really is and whether its future must look like its present. In short, democracy is a form of government where power belongs to the people and rulers are chosen through competitive elections. Its opposite is autocracy, where power is nearly unlimited. Democracy usually comes in two forms: direct, where all citizens vote on the decisions themselves, and representative, where decisions are made by an electoral council chosen by local procedures. This is what democracy is in general. But today, when we use the term democracy, we most often mean its only current form, liberal democracy. Indeed, since 18th and 19th centuries, the only prevailing form has been liberal democracy, formed during the Age of Enlightenment in Europe. Liberal democracy is a representative form of government built on elections, constitutionalism, individual rights, and legal limitations on power. In such systems, the will of the majority is balanced by institutional guarantees of freedom of speech, property, religion, and protected by law. But it is necessary to understand that in the basic concept of democracy, no matter how we are used to it, superstructures on rights and various institutions are not obligatory. In other words, other forms of non-liberal democracy are possible, which will fall into the basic definition. And such examples existed in history. You probably have already heard about democracy in Athens, but today's case study is not about them. Today we will talk about Mongolian and Central Asian nomadic forms of democracy, often called military democracy. It is impossible to say exactly where and how it appeared in nomadic societies, but it continued until the fall of the last nomadic empires in the 18th and 19th century. It is possible to imagine nomadic communities as barbarian societies based solely on the endless power of an authoritarian ruler. But this will be absolutely wrong. In reality, nomadic states can be called heaven forms of military democracy. Further, we will talk about the time period after the life of Genghis Khan, but it is worth noting that Genghis Khan himself came to the peak of his power not only due to continuous conquest, but thanks to the institution of choosing the supreme ruler among nomadic peoples, called kurultai. How exactly did the kurultai take place in almost all nomadic societies of the Great Steppe? The kurultai is a political and military council of the nobility of the state. It included various groups, but the most important were the heads of the clans, exceptional warriors, various high military leaders, judges, and representatives of the Chenghizid clan. That is, the direct descendants of Genghis Khan, whose number grew exponentially over time. Only a representative of the Chenghizid clan was elected as the supreme ruler. However, in reality, such restrictions quickly began to be circumvented with the help of a huge number of descendants. Various, so to speak, political parties chose in advance a Chenghizid on whom they would bet at the kurultai. In the listed council, I mentioned exceptional warriors, judges, and various military leaders. I would like to dwell in more detail to explain how permeable these institutions were. A warrior who proved his bravery on the battlefield received the status of the Batur. Now he could have political power and participate in the kurultai. Judges obtained their status by resolving various disputes within communities. They relied on law, such as the law of Genghis Khan, Yassa. The wisest and the most honest judge, according to the opinion of his local community and clan, was granted access to the kurultai. Finally, the position of military leader was not so unattainable. It is worth remembering that in nomadic society, all men represented an army, so each of them was a potential candidate for the position of both Batur and military leader. The Khan could only be chosen from the Chenghizid line, which makes this system similar to a hereditary monarchy. But what distinguishes it is the possibility of being deposed through the same kurultai procedure. This happened rarely. We are talking about the Middle Ages after all, but history remembers the name of Tarmashirin, who was overthrown at the kurultai for betraying the traditions of Genghis Khan and his Yassa law. After all, the kurultai was a meeting not only for choosing the Khan, but also for making important political decisions, such as adopting new laws or decisions on large-scale military campaigns. It was a representative plebiscite. The whole system can be characterized as a sort of parliamentary monarchy with military democracy, which includes permeable system of electoral council. In fact, this is just one example of non-liberal democracy in history. I have already mentioned the democracy of Athens, but I should also mention the democracies of ancient India in the state of the Lichavis. Maybe someday I will make a video about them too. Thus, several things can be said. Firstly, democracy existed before the ideas of liberalism and had various forms both in ancient and medieval history. Democracy arose in history in parallel in different areas and places. Perhaps today's historical case can serve as some answer to the question of the high democracy index of modern Mongolia. Speaking about democracy as a phenomenon in general, it is important to remember the hidden but real diversity of the term. Liberal democracy is not the ultimate answer to all problems, nor is it the ultimate answer to the question of possible democracy. The institutional superstructures of liberalism do not necessarily reflect the very essence of democracy, even if they help the basic idea. Secondly, it is possible to imagine that today's no longer very stable and poorly functioning liberal democracy is probably not the last form of democracy in history. Perhaps, and this is a question, the desire for political participation, the desire for the ability to make decisions that affect the future of one's own community lie in the nature of a man as a social being, which could mean that democracy still has the right to exist in some form. I do not have an answer to this question yet, so I will leave you with it, just to find the name of the channel. But perhaps you already have an answer or ideas. Please write them in the comments. In order not to miss the next video, subscribe to the channel and do not forget to like the video. If you want to support my work, there will be a link to Patreon below. Thank you. Goodbye.